Good morning, everyone. Before I get to the actual numbers, I'm going to go over some information to tell you how we were able to get to those numbers and make vast improvements within the Columbus Police Department. But as already been pointed out by Chief Mathis, my name is Roger Graham. I'm one of the Deputy Chief in the Columbus Police Department in charge of the Bureau of Administrative Services. So these are going to be the areas in which I'm going to speak on today. It's going to be recruiting efforts and retention. It's going to be on our sworn personnel staffing. It's going to be on a professional training, professional development, as well as community engagement and community policing. And again, the reason for this is to tell you where we were, where we're going, and where we predict that we'll be in the future. So, and as well as the Columbus Police Department crime stats. So looking at background and recruiting, these are some of the areas that you see up here with our recruiting efforts and strategies. You can see the streamline of the hiring and background process. You've heard the Chief Mathis in the past talk about streamlining the process. Well, now you're finna see the result of streamlining the process. The digital recruiting, what we're making reference to there is we went and decided to use Indeed, which gave us the best results out of all the platforms that we were using. It increased tremendously. That we saw a big return on that in the year 2024, and I'll show you evidence of that as well as the lateral recruiting. That's recruiting from other police agencies, whether local or throughout the state, and sometime outside of the state. We have recruited now, because of Indeed, we have recruited as far west as Iowa, Seattle. As far as north, right now we have an individual that's in the pipeline that'll be coming from Pennsylvania. So Indeed has given us a tremendous return. Pathway, high school and college, pathway. So when we talk about this, this is the beginning when an individual can actually come into the department early on at the earliest age. High school, those individuals are our cadets, but that's that pathway that leads from cadet to new recruit to police officer. That's very important, and that's throughout. Judge Ranieri has invited us to come out in a program that he's doing, and we anticipate recruiting some young individuals out of high school. Colleges and universities, we expanded. We started going to more different colleges and more to university for the individuals that's in the criminal justice program, which to bring them in as well. But what we get out of there is last year, it was about 6 interns that we were able to get out of Columbus State University. They start off as an intern, not sure if they want to be a police officer, came down there, fell in love with the agency, and 2 of them graduated last year from not only from college, but graduated from the police academy. Military veterans, that goes without saying, that is a big pool for us recruiting. You have individuals that's transitioning from the military and want to move into a non-military lifestyle. We open up, we go out, we recruit them, bring them on, and it's an easy transition because there is some mirroring between the 2 entities. Professional development, we're really excited about this. Now you've heard Chief Mathis talk about sending mid-level managers to more advanced leadership classes for future leaders. We're heavily into that. Several of us have gone to advanced or to executive level or mid-level leadership classes. And then also, we're going to be bringing in, starting up new, which will be our leadership, Columbus Police Department Leadership Academy. That's going to be preparing the future leaders within the Columbus Police Department so that we can always have synergy in the department. And then we want to talk about career path. Research shows, and this is something I learned after Chief Mathis transferred me from OPS to the Bureau of Administrative Services. Research shows that Generation Z wants to have input on what they do for a living in their career. Homing in on that, what we do now is try to find out what individuals are most interested in. Of course, they have to go to patrol, but eventually give those different little nuggets working up to what they find most interesting, whether it's staying in patrol or becoming a detective. And then lastly, you can see from the things that Chief Mathis has mentioned, we are rebranding the Columbus Police Department. All of the recognition, that makes other people want to be a part of that. So the better that we do, the better that we can recruit and the more that we can recruit. Here are some of the results of what we have been able to do. In 2020, you can see we had 108 vacancies. In 2021, we had 141. That was a very trying year. In 2022, we had 140. That was an even additional trying year. In 2023, we dropped down to 84. In 2024, we got it down to 10. That's changing some of the strategies as far as recruiting and bringing people on. And then also in 2024, we were added on those additional 10 positions, which led into the 2023 because we were recruiting. But at that part of when you get that close to the end of the year, now we have individuals that's retiring and moving on. So we have done outstandingly in that area as well, but that's evidence that's based on what I previously spoke of. And here, what you're seeing is just a snapshot as of February the 10th. I went back and checked it again this morning, and it was reduced. We're now looking at about 3%, just over 3% vacancies. But you can see up there in 25 that we took in 882 applications were received in 2025. However, out of that 822, we only hired 6.57. That's not because we could not hire more. It's because of the standards that we have continuously raised to improve the quality of individuals that we are bringing on in the Columbus Police Department. So our standards went up, we're still able to fill positions, and we still have a vacancy rate of at 3.33. You look at that chart, and that says it all to just see how close that we are eventually going to hit that other point where it's in line. Our training, continuing de-escalation training, ensuring that individuals our new recruits are receiving the critical response training. All of you may know about the transition with the Agent K. That is definitely have motivated many individuals in the Columbus Police Department transitioning to a new weapon. So again, we thank you for that as well. Increasing scenario-based training. The chief talks about how dangerous it is, but we are hiring very young individuals at 20 years of age going to the academy, so we need to equip them with as much as we can to ensure their safety while they're ensuring someone else's safety. And I spoke already about initiating the Columbus Police Department Leadership Academy. I believe we're going to see great return on that because we're talking about preparing corporals and sergeants for future the leadership in the Columbus Police Department. And in addition, we're going to work that all the way up to other rankings in the police department. And then, again, the leadership development training for our mid-level management. Here, I just want to touch on, again, about building the relationships and trust while improving the life, the quality of life within the Columbus Police Department. That is what everyone jokes when I say this, but the elite community policing unit is what they're doing out there, building those relationships as well as reducing crime and improving the quality of life for individuals that's in the immediate area that's less fortunate. And then we have initiated putting a foot patrol. If you go downtown and uptown area, you see them. And as well as we're bringing back on the bike patrol in the uptown area along the River Walk as well. And then our community engagement, it goes without saying that we are heavily involved in the community and the citizens of Columbus, as well as, again, the youth. These are the numbers that was mentioned earlier. I draw your attention to the murder line there. When you talk about in 25 being 27 and 24 being 35, but you can see the reduction there of 22.86. Then you go down and you look at the robbery, you can see another significant reduction of 20%, and aggravated assaults down. If you look at those previous years in aggravated assault in 2021 and 2022, those are some very high numbers in comparison to now 2025, which we believe in 26, all of these numbers will be improved even more. And then we look at the burglaries, down 24%, almost 25%. That is very, very impressive. Calls for service and response time, we have made a significant improvement in that area as well. Looking at 23, 24, 25, you can see the total calls of dispatch by 911 that we took in 2023. Imagine those calls with less officers in 2023. That's very daunting and tiring on the officer, cause burnout, cause individuals wanted a different career path. But in 24, we was able to take in 2,480 842, and then in 25, you can see those numbers increase as well. Our priority 1, 2, and 3 calls, those are the times. You can see the times, significant improvement in the times. Why you think those significant improvements in the time? Because more police officers. More police officers, more individuals have become police officers because of the different things that City Council have done to allow us to offer. So the things you enhanced us with, we use that to recruit additional people and get these results. So you're talking about a priority call going from 18 minutes down to 7 minutes. That's a significant improvement, and we thank you for it. Assistant Chief.
Good morning. That was the short version, so be thankful for that. One thing I would like to add about the calls, and you see on that slide, you saw where there was an increase in calls over the last 3 years. What I would tell you, and what's not up there that I think is important, is for 2025, 265,200 calls, over half of those calls were self-initiated. And that's important to know because that comes with proactive, that means we got officers out here doing proactive police work. That means we have people out here taking a proactive approach to reduce crime and to keep crime from happening. So I think that's important to note that yes, there is an increase in calls, but a lot of those calls are self-initiated, where in 2023, because of manpower, it was very difficult to self-initiate calls, to take a proactive approach. So I just wanted to mention that before I move on to the next part. The chief talked about being superstitious about murders and violent crimes, and he did. We've been doing some briefings with our patrol officers, and he would get up there, and that particular day last week, they just kept talking about, you know, no murders in January, no murders in January, and I was about to have a fit. Because as a guy who spent a lot of my career working violent crimes and homicides along with Deputy Chief Blackstock in the back, he knows and we know we don't tempt the universe, we don't tempt fate, we don't talk about it. We just let it be, and we let's ride it out as long as we can. Well, we got in the car at lunchtime to go to another meeting, and there that text went off. And it was the murder-suicide over on Greer. And I said, see, you don't tempt the universe with this kind of stuff. So that's why he laughs about that. And he said, Lance, what are you worried about? January's already over. I said, I know, but we still got February and a lot of other months to go. So I said, let's not tempt him. But my part of this is you ask yourself, well, Rod just talked about, you know, how many calls and how many, and Part 1 crimes and that kind of stuff. Well, what happens to all those cases? So we get cases in, and what does that look like? What happens to them after that? So what I'm going to talk to you about is when those cases get assigned up to investigations, what those numbers look like. And I think it's important to pay attention to what the national average is. And this national average that's on here comes straight from the FBI based on cities our same size. Okay, and you say, well, why use the FBI numbers? Well, Part 1 crimes are, the FBI's, that's where Part 1 crimes come from. The calculation of Part 1 crimes, that's who we report them to. So that's the standard, and that's what we should be looking at. So we do, and we do that with clearance rates as well. So overall cases assigned to investigative services, 2,336. Cases cleared or closed out of those 2,336, 1,995, that's an 85% clearance and closure rate. As you can see on the bottom, national average 70%, and we're at 85. That's significant. The other key point I think is important to recognize is we worked more cases in 25 than we did in 24. And that's not because more cases happened. It's because we had more manpower assigned to investigations so we could pick up additional cases to work that in the past we've not had the manpower to work. Because remember that not all crimes are Part 1 crimes. But if they're felony crimes, whether they're Part 1 crimes or not, oftentimes those are getting assigned to investigations and we're working those. And I'm going to tell you the Part 1 crime numbers here in a second. So again, I think that's important to recognize that kind of increase. And you'll see this will be a consistent theme across all of these different crimes and across these categories that you'll see. So this one is Part 1 crime clearance rates. So out of those over 2,000 cases assigned to investigation, 1,659 of those cases were deemed to be Part 1 crimes. 849 of those cases were cleared. That's a 51% clearance rate. Look at the national average, 17.4%. It's the national average for a city our size. And we're at 51%. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. The work that these men and women are doing, not only servicing these calls, but getting the worst cases of the worst cases in this city and having and closing and clearing these cases at this level is absolutely amazing. So murder, we talk a lot about the murder. Rod gave you some numbers earlier. So cases worked 27. So we had 27 murders last year. Out of those 27, we cleared 22. Here's the other parts, and so that's an 81.48% clearance rate. Here's the other part of that. They also cleared 5 cases from previous years. So when you get right down to it, we got 27 murders, they cleared 27 murders. And as of this year, as of this month already, one of the cases from 25 that didn't get cleared is now cleared. So we continue to work those cases, year in and year out to get that. This is 2 years in a row that when you look at it, because I did this presentation last year, if you remember, it was exactly the same. There were 35 murders. We didn't clear, it was a little bit less. It was 80% clearance on the 35 we had last year, but we cleared some older murders that got us to what would equate to 100%, just like this year, 2 years in a row. Again, astounding number. And then again, 55.5% clearance rate is the national average, and we're sitting above 80% 2 years in a row. So again, incredible. So this next slide is about robberies and aggravated assaults. Aggravated assaults are what we saw the most decrease in as it relates to the number of cases. That number dropped like I've never seen it drop before. And again, I think that's a real testament to manpower, to a very strategic plan put in place. And the chief talks about all the time, some people in the community will come up to him and say, oh, you're just lucky. Oh, y'all just got lucky. There's no luck involved in this, guys. It's very strategic in nature. We are very deliberate about the strategic plans we put in place to address issues, and they change every year. This year looks different than last year. And so our plans change, and we address those based on the needs of this community. So last year, 60 robberies, 137 aggravated assaults were worked, 37 robberies cleared, 71 aggravated assaults cleared. Clearance rate for robbery, 61.67%. The national average is 29.9%. Aggravated assault clearance rate, 51.82%. The national average is 45.7%. Again, significantly higher than the national average for cities our size. Next, we're talking about property crimes, burglaries, and theft by taking motor vehicles. We're seeing this theft by taking motor vehicle trend is trending in the right direction even the first month and a half of this year. And that's certainly a good sign. 103 burglaries, 158 theft by taking motor vehicle cases, 29 burglaries cleared, 96 theft by taking motor vehicles cleared, 28% clearance rate on burglaries, 61% clearance rate on theft by taking motor vehicles. Look at the national average for burglary, 13.2, and we're at 28. But here's the huge thing, theft by taking motor vehicle, 61%, the national average is 10.8. Right now, Rod, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at about a 40%, 60% reduction in theft by taking motor vehicles so far this year. So that trend continues to be the case. And the chief and I were talking yesterday, and we were discussing it, and well, maybe it's because it's been cold. It's because, the weather has helped us in that manner. Well, my experience has been, and we discussed this, when it's cold outside, that's when we see a lot of vehicles stolen because people go out in their driveways before work and they crank their cars up, let them warm up, They go to the gas station, they leave them running because they don't want the cars to get cold. People jump in these cars and steal them. That's a pretty common thing for this time of year. So to see that kind of decrease and to see these kind of clearance rates, again, nothing short of spectacular. I'll close with this. Our Special Operations Unit is assigned to Investigative Bureau as well. Between Special Operations and the rest of our investigators, the number of gang cases prosecuted last year were 32. Now, that doesn't mean that's the number of gang members. That means that's the number of gang cases. And oftentimes, those gang cases have multiple defendants and co-defendants. So that's a significant number of cases. We continue to see and focus on those kind of cases. We've got very good support from our state and federal partners. We've got very good support from our district attorney's office to help us with the prosecution of these cases. And so we do believe that's having a big effect. Number of firearms recovered from investigations, 136. Now, that's not all the guns recovered by the Columbus Police Department. That's just the guns recovered from special operations and follow-up investigations. So that doesn't include all the guns that are recovered out of patrol, but 136 firearms recovered from investigative services.
Thank you, Lance. Yep. Thank you, Chief. Listen, my goal from the time I walked into the Columbus Police Department is we cannot arrest our way out of this problem, and we can't write citations to get ourselves out of this problem. The key to it is building relationships, and that's why my community relations and cops unit do such a wonderful job. And as a matter of fact, over the next few weeks, you're going to find that one of my police officers is being recognized regionally as a person of the year for the work that they've done in the community. So not only are we enforcing the law, but we're also building relationships, because I'm a huge warning person, because I think that warnings do way more to change people's behavior than citations. And I'm also a huge at looking at the underlying problem opposed to just locking somebody up, because oftentimes there's underlying problems that we can fix as a team between the counselors and the mayor and the citizens and the pastors and the police department and the sheriff's department. As a team, we can deal with a lot of these problems without simply just locking people up. And that's what we've been doing, and that's why the numbers are so significant. And now to the asks. Rod? Listen, from the very beginning, you've heard me say the number 400. Mayor, have I said 400? Mayor Pro Tem? So I'm not asking for anything. I just don't want you to forget that number 400 is where we really need to be. If we want to continue to fight crime and do the things that we need to do, number 400 is where we need to kind of level off with the technology advancements that we've had. It does not take place of boots on the ground and good old-fashioned police work. So I just don't want you to forget that number. I've got about another year here, and if I'm gone, I just don't want you to forget about that 400 number, because that's where you need to be. Rod? And now what I am asking for is this, and me and the mayor's talked about it. Actually, Councilor Glenn Davis is the one that brought it to my attention. I've talked to the fire chief who actually got this approved a couple of years ago. I am asking for some certification pay. There are some certain certifications. My SWAT team members make zero more than my police officers that work on the street. I mean, they work on the street too, but if they get a 911 call when police officers need help, they call the SWAT team. They make zero money for that. And since the city does not pay us overtime, they actually go out on these calls for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and it's free. They get zero money for it. So I'm asking for a certification pay. My FTOs that I only pick the best police officers to train my newest police officers. A new police officer gets in the car with my FTOs, they make the exact same amount of money. So I'm asking for certification pay. There's 2 certifications in the state of Georgia. It's called intermediate and advanced certifications that all police officers can get. Usually it's about 5 years to get your intermediate, and then another 5 years to get your advanced. And then instructors, I have instructors within the police department that's teaching police officers, and they make the same exact amount of money. My motor units, they're out there working every day, working these fatality accidents, and I know that people don't understand, but when police officers talk about this mental and emotional awareness, that I have Assistant Chief Dan Fitzpatrick is an expert in talking to people about that. These motor officers that see 15, 20, 30 deaths a year, that has to have an impact on them, and they deserve some type of incentive pay. Also, my canine unit, they get zero more money to handle a canine, and then my forensic unit, my digital forensic unit, that we send them to thousands of dollars worth of training, but we give them, and they have to be smart to do that, and we give them no additional monies to do that. They make the same as a detective. So I am asking for that. And the way it is, it's $100 per certification, maximum 2 certifications to one individual. And I did the numbers. There's 170 certifications throughout the department. But don't let that scare you, because the max it's going to be is $22,000 a month. But there may be 10 or 12 or 15 people that have 4 or 5 of these certifications, and they're only going to get paid for 2. So the monies is actually less than that. And when we're talking about, I think the financial guy was just in here talking about how well our finances are. We're talking about $270,000 annually. That's a drop in the bucket for the city of Columbus. We're the 2nd largest city in the state of Georgia. I think we can do that. What I would like to explain is, at some point, the city of Columbus has got to lead the way, opposed to always following. And right now, LaGrange starting pay for a police officer is $62,000. Our starting pay is $50,000. Right now, we're full. We're doing a great job recruiting, thanks to Rod and his recruiting team. But at some point, these police officers are going to say, $12,000 pay raise to drive 45 minutes is worth it. What we try to preach is, but you go up there and you'll be a patrol officer for 20 years. Here in the city of Columbus, there's a lot of areas to move around, and you get to experience a lot of different police, different techniques that we use. But the most important thing that I try to do in the police department is treat everyone like a family. From my cleaning lady, Mary James, all the way to the police chief. My job is no more important than her job. We're all doing one thing. We're reducing crime and building relationships. And that's what we do at the City of Columbus Police Department. And I do ask for a few of those things. Last but not least, don't forget about the 171. That probably will not happen under my tenure, but I ask you don't forget about that, because at some point, we're going to have to pay police officers overtime. If they get called out on a SWAT call, or if they get called out on a murder investigation and they know they're going to go out there for 4 or 5 hours and not get paid for it, at some point you are going to have to break down and start paying police officers for overtime. I just don't want you to forget about that. I'm sure it won't happen in my tenure with 1 more year left, but I ask you, please don't forget about that. Are there any questions about this presentation today?
Yes, sir. We've got a few.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Chief, thank you. Oh, Counselor Davis.
Wow. This is one of those moments, a wow moment. And Chief, I just want to say this, and I don't want anybody to take it wrong, okay? With what we do, with what we're asked to do, a demand on the council, let's just say in our line of business, sometimes you have to search for those moments that really make you feel good. And we've got a lot of good things going in Columbus, which is great, but I'm feeling really good right now.
Thank you.
And I got to share it some way, somehow. That is one incredible report, one great report. Congratulations to the men and women of CPD. What an outstanding job. All of our first responders, what an outstanding job. You know, and I'm just going to say this, Mayor, this council took a lot of heat a while back for making some really, really tough decisions. But we did that, and Chief, I'm going to share a personal moment, even though people are watching and hearing what I'm about to say. But you know this, so my colleagues know this. there was a moment that I described it as the Titanic is sinking. There was a moment, and it was an incredible feat to try to figure out how do we plug that hole. But that was somewhat an easy decision. The tough decision was getting the Titanic to float and then turning it and getting it to go in the right direction. That was a challenge. And I'm feeling good today because what I'm seeing in these numbers in this report is that the Titanic's moving.
Yes, sir.
It's going in the right direction. And if we don't learn a lesson in Columbus, Georgia, the last several years, we cannot go backwards. We got to go forward. We got to keep this momentum going. Now, look, you got to be vigilant. Crime is crime. Crime is crime, and it's always there, around every corner. But we got to do it together, like you said, and build those relationships, and we got to keep this thing moving forward.
Yes, sir.
We cannot go back, and I think the lessons in leadership and the things we've learned across the board, and look, there was a time, I give credit to the sheriff's office, or where they filled in the gap and covered. People don't realize what was going on in the city and where they covered the gap of where we were falling short in trying to plug the hole of the Titanic.
Yes, sir.
And they did one heck of a job, okay? And that's teamwork. And there's been a lot of teamwork, and you stated that today, which makes me very proud. The other thing is we just had a report. This coincides, Mayor. I don't know if you planned this, but it couldn't have been a better situation. We just had our audit report, and you saw where a lot of the revenue that's generated through tax dollars, where it goes. It goes to what? Public safety.
Yep.
58% of our budget, public safety. Well, what we just heard, forget about the request, okay? I'll come back to those at the end, but forget about that. You just saw a return on your investment.
Yes, sir.
A real return. Mayor, if we don't take this message and this story of what we heard today, and we don't get the mileage that this city deserves, that our public safety deserves, CPD across the board, if we don't take this and get this message out there, because I remember the days when there was a lot of fear in our community, a lot of fear. But those numbers should mean something. That's why I said, wow, this is a wow moment. So I'm feeling really good, and I can't thank the department, the leadership, the men and women of CPD, and again, I don't want to leave out any of our first responders across the board, because I know it's teamwork.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, this is a great moment, and we need to just keep it going. And you're right, it is economic development, and that's the story that we need to tell people of what's going on here in Columbus. We're reducing crime, and we need to even reduce it. Let's reduce it even more.
Yes, sir.
And I think we can if we have that mentality. We know how now, so let's keep that message at the forefront, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hickey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hang on.
Chief, I just want to say congratulations to
Wait. I can't get this thing. It's flying me. I'm not flying it. Hang on.
All right.
There we go.
All right,
Sorry.
there we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I just want to just say thank you for the great job that you're doing, you and your team. I fully understand what you're requesting here today. And I've shared with my colleagues that's up here on many times, I shared with them that CPD is our diamond in the rough. We have got to polish this diamond. And reflecting back, as piggybacking on what Councilman Davis just said, when the Titanic was sinking, this council came together with the mayor and seeked you out, brought you in, and now we're moving in a positive direction. And I say that to remind the public that no one in this city is safe. Anybody can become a victim at any time. But if you got high police presence in the community, on the streets, that is a clear deterrent to people wanting to victimize other people. So I say to this body today, this council body, we need to continue to polish this diamond. We need to continue to give them the tools, the necessary tools and funding they need to protect this city as best they can. And I agree with the chief, and to help people to understand, Sheriff Countryman is a friend of mine. He does a great job. He filled in the gap, as you mentioned, when we were in trouble. And my hat goes off to Sheriff Countryman. But as the chief mentioned earlier, the Columbus Police Department received the 911 call. They are your first responders. They're the individuals that go out, deal with the issues that are being people reporting through 911. And I just think it's so important that we understand that they're the ones that catch those calls initially. And they're the ones that do the investigating on these crimes. They're the ones that just showed you the numbers of the results of their high percentage and clearance cases in this city. But I think, you know, it's been said in the past, and a lot of us, and I was a member of the police department at the time when this comment was made, if you don't like what's going on, you can leave. Let me say something to everybody. The last thing we want to do is tell the men and women in blue to leave and go find another job. Because you don't want this city to become like Gotham City. He mentioned economic development. If you don't have a strong police presence, no developer's gonna come in and wanna do anything. No business is gonna wanna come here and do business. But you're gonna end up having a Gotham City, and I describe it as such, that you're gonna be looking for a Batman signal in the sky, but ain't nobody gonna respond. Because you done told them if they don't like it, they could leave. And as he mentioned a moment ago, 62,000 is what they start their people out in LaGrange, Georgia. 30 to 45 minutes drive. Easy trip to go and work for LaGrange. But I'm telling you, financially, we're in a good place. And since we're in a good place, we need to do everything that we can to compensate the men and women at the Columbus Police Department, to give them what they need so that they can continue to go out and have a high presence and protecting this community. Because I tell people all the time, even my neighbors in my neighborhood, if you don't have a strong police presence, as I mentioned a moment ago, you're gonna have people out here doing things that you don't want them to be doing. And I am a living witness to all the gunfire that I used to hear off of Honolulu Drive, North Star Drive, all back over there in those areas. Hey, people, I don't hear those gunshots no more. I don't hear them. And that's because of the good job that y'all out here doing.
Thank you.
And the impact that the Sheriff Department is making as well. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership. And that's a key word, leadership. I heard you say you're only going to be here another year. I hope we can convince you to stay longer. It's something that I would be pushing for, because you got the department going in the right direction. Because if we get the wrong leadership after he leaves, it could be a crisis again, people. So I just want to remind this council that none of us sitting in this chamber today are completely safe. Anybody can become a victim. But we have got to remember, if we polish this diamond in the rough, give them what they need, the tools and the resources they need to continue to look after the citizens in this community. That's what we need to be doing as a legislative body, is giving them what they need. Thank you again for what y'all do. You have my support 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Councilor Davis, briefly.
Sorry?
you have your button pushed?
Yeah, I think so. Told you I'd come back to your request, but Mayor, I think what we need to do is contact every social media site that has badmouthed us in the past. And I think you need to give them those numbers and those statistics and remind them and hopefully inverse however they come up with their ratios and their statistics. But that should make a difference in what was reported today. But Chief, look, I'm superstitious, and like I said, you know, crime's around every corner, and just by nature, I'm superstitious. By nature, I'm also performance-driven. And I'm a big believer, Councilor Chambers, he just left, but he talks about it all the time, but I'm a big believer in performance and rewarding performance. So some of those requests you made will be easy for me, because I just said, the return on the investment, if you can show that and we're moving in the right direction, that's just my nature. And I think we should reward our departments and our people that are doing exactly that. So that's my comment to your request at the end of your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir. Chief, and to your staff, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great presentation, and as always, appreciate what you do. You've got a plan, your people are working the plan, and it's borne some fruit. So
Thank you.
All right.